We get a lot of hate for this. Gonna be a lot of pissed off people. Nobody's talking about it, so I'm going to. I have a small channel. Ain't nobody watch this anyway. My honest truth opinion. All right, this one is about the worst format in Magic. It's not standard. It's not modern. It's not legacy or vintage. It's not pauper. It's not pioneer. It's not brawl. What else we got out there? It's not limited. It's EDH/Commander. And I say that because I was around during the beginning of actual EDH before Wizards bought it. And me and a group of friends, we played EDH constantly, all the time. And it was the best time I've had in Magic, probably ever. We had huge pods of 6 to 8 people, and we just had some drinks, played some cards. There were no net decks. There were no power scaling levels. There was no discussion of rule 0. There was nothing. You said, hey, it's Thursday night. We're going to go play EDH. And then we also had people who played Standard and Modern, got ready for FNM and things like that. But, we all sat down like, hey, you can play, set a table, bring out the deck, boom, here we go. And you just played. There weren't mainstream combos. There were combos, don't get me wrong. But there weren't any mainstream ones that you would see in in a 4-person pod. You'd probably see 2 to 3 of the same combo. That wasn't like that. No. Everybody built their own deck from their own knowledge of cards, their own imagination of what they wanted to do with them. I had a friend, and he was a math teacher. He built almost all of his decks based around mathematics. And it was crazy. It was hilarious. It was fun. And it was awesome to see how well it worked. And then we had another friend who was always tribal with everything, which you still see a lot of tribal. But we didn't have a lot of options when it came to generals. And that's what we call them, were generals, not commanders. So we didn't have a lot of options when it came to general choice. I was that guy. I played Mono Blue Teferi. And I still play Mono Blue Teferi. OG Teferi. And so this is the same deck that, like I said, I've been playing for almost 10 years. Or since before Commander was the thing. And so I've been working on this deck and updating it constantly. And so one thing that I realize is that, playing Mono Blue, especially in the early days, even nowadays, you're a target. You 100% put a target on your back, on your chest, on your forehead, everywhere. You put a target on yourself. And I remember when I was first playing EDH, it would upset me that I'd be out first, And then it took me a long time to realize, what? It makes sense. Like, Mono Blue is very powerful, and it's very strong. So you're going to have a target, like I said, all over you. And so it took me a long time to understand that and be okay with that. So whenever I bring out Mono Blue, I'd be like, all right, I don't make any friends. I don't do any politics. I don't do any of that stuff, and I still don't. I know it's a 3v1 in a 4-person pod. I know it's a 4v1 in a 5-person pod, and so I went into games with that type of mentality. So, and that was fine. It was some of the, like I said, some of the best times I had in Magic were playing EDH in the garage, and it was just so fun. We had a time where we were in like a 6 or 8-man pod, and a buddy of mine played Cheaty Face from Unhinged, I think it was, or one of the unsets, I can't remember. And this is Cheaty Face. So Cheaty Face, if I remember right, it's just like what is he, a 3/4, a 4/4, something like that. Anyway, he's just a flying creature. That's it, with X whatever power toughness. But if you can sneak him into play, you can play him for free. So a buddy of mine he snuck him into play, and our house rule was, is if it lasted 1 turn and nobody caught it, it's on the board. But if somebody catches it before the end of your turn, get it out of here, So it lasted. And so someone went to block, and he was like, okay, I'll block with Cheaty Face. And everybody was like, whoa, where the hell did that come from? And we all just cracked up. He blocked it, went to his graveyard. It was hilarious. A friend of mine came walking by, and he was like, oh, let me see that card. He looked at it, and we all laughed about it, and then he passed it to me. And then I played a creature, but I hit Cheaty Face behind the creature on the board, And then when no one was looking, I just kind of moved the creature out of the way and then passed the turn, and then there he was. And everybody's just like, wait, where did he come from? I was like, oh, we got it from his graveyard. And we just had crack up fun times like that. And nobody was trying to just like hurry up and combo off, and nobody was just trying to screw each other over. It was like hilariously fun. Um, and the longest game I played, I think, was like a 4-hour EDH game. And it started with like 6 or 8 of us, and it dwindled down to like 3 of us. And it just went to like 2, 3 in the morning. And it was so fun. It was really, really fun. Um, and so you don't hear about those type of stories anymore. You don't hear about those type of long games that people enjoy to do. Sure, some people don't want to do an hour, 2 hour long EDH game, and that just seems absurd. I get it. But when you're in the mood and you're in the moment and you're like, no, I'm not going to let you win. I'm not going to let you win or you. And they're all having the same mentality, and everybody is just stubborn to where they're like, I'm not scooping. I'm not going to Scoop City. That's not mine. That's population you, homie. You know? And so, I just remember times like that. And then once WotC bought Commander, or bought EDH and turned it into Commander, I haven't had fun like that. I haven't had fun like that since then. Uh, there were still some times where we had some good EDH games and everything, but it started becoming mainstream in a negative way. I don't mind things becoming mainstream. It opens up the playing field to everybody to be able to play. That's great. But it became mainstream to the point where just net decks became a thing. Combos in every single color and format, or excuse me, color and archetype became a thing. And then you just kept seeing the same combos over and over and over and over throughout each deck. You know, like my combo you don't see in a lot of decks, which is it's a known combo. You Palinchron High Tide, or you Palinchron with some sort of mana doubling, and then you create infinite mana. But you don't see other people making infinite mana with Palinchron. It's an expensive card and it's played in decks, but you don't see it like that. Sometimes they use it as an ETB trigger, or they use it as some sort of creature effect, but not necessarily infinite mana sometimes. And so I didn't see anybody else doing Palinchron, so it was things like that that made me realize that, once those things started changing, and then people were playing Thassa's Oracle or Labman all the time, or there's a couple of other cards I can't think of right now. But once I saw those cards in like almost any deck, if it ran that color, it was predictable. It was almost predictable. If you see their colors, you can almost predict 1 to 3 of their win cons. And that's why I keep like 6 or 7 different win cons in my mono blue deck. There's numerous ways to win in that deck. And so now Commander is so flooded with cards that it's not good. It is not good. The format is just, I want to say stale, even though there's constantly an influx of new cards coming into the format, but it is stale because there's an influx of cards coming into the format. You get to enjoy a new card or a few new cards into EDH, into that format, for a very short time. The other thing that makes Commander the worst format is it is the worst one to introduce new people to. Yeah, it's true. So a lot of people think it's the best format to introduce people to, and it is not. You're introducing a new player to a 100-card deck, multiple players at a table, and that they each have 100-card decks. So that is at the very least, if it's a 4-person pod, you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 400 cards that they have to know about, that they have to look about, that they have to think of triggers, that they have to think of the stack, that they have to wait for responses, that they have to look over and make sure that board state is this, that board state is this, and this board state is here, and then my board state, and then play this. It's overwhelming. And people get it though. People understand it, and people enjoy it still. That's how they're introduced to the game. There's nothing wrong with that. But it is by far the worst format to introduce new people to. It just is. It takes a lot more to pay attention to all of that. And then by introducing them to EDH, they're not learning the game. They're learning Commander. And Commander is a completely different game to regular Magic, in the sense that there are a ton more triggers, a ton more events of stack placement, a ton more different effects and abilities than a regular format. So it's a completely different game than any other format for that alone, because every other format, except for Two-Headed Giant or what was the one with it's a 3v3 and the person in the middle can't attack each way. I don't remember. Someone put it in the comments. But anyway, that other than those other formats like that, EDH is it's a multiplayer format. Standard isn't. Legacy, Pauper, Vintage, Modern, Pio. These are all 1v1s. So introducing a new player to Magic, my opinion, would be Standard, Draft, or Sealed. Those are the best three formats to introduce a new player to the game of Magic. Because in Standard, there's a far less card pool to teach from. In Limited, it gives the player a way to be interested in specific cards, specific sets, and then they can branch out and do their own research from there. In Sealed, they get an idea of what it's like to just crack packs and build from that. And it gives them a better deck building. I'd say Sealed is easier than Limited, because Limited you have to have the knowledge of the set, you have to have the knowledge of the cards, and you have to know what mechanics work well with others. So Sealed is definitely by far the best one to introduce new players to. Now, when it comes to Standard, you only have to worry about a 1v1 scenario, and just that's when you can teach the best about the mechanics, the rules, and the game itself, is through Standard. There are so many things that happen on the stack, far less than EDH, obviously, but there's enough to where a new player can start learning so much, and then they just kind of get that vibe of like, oh, okay, this is fun. This is cool. All right, let's try it again. I think I'm getting it. Let's start a new game. All right, cool. Let's do it. And then, you just go from there. The other thing about Commander as to why it's the worst is because the way that WotC and Hasbro is printing cards right now is just, the pool of cards is far too vast. It's just too much. Way too much. And I think Commander players need to calm down on buying every single set or every single card that they print. You don't need it. You're making it worse. I'm going to be honest with you. Because EDH players feel the need to buy every set that comes out because of certain cards, buy singles. Just like Prof says, buy the singles. That's all you do. And if you want to buy like a one box or like a couple of few packs and just like crack packs, because cracking packs is fun. I love it. Then, by all means do it. But you don't need to spend like $1,000 on booster boxes for your EDH decks. Like, that's what's ruining the game. Just get the cards you need for your EDH deck, buy singles. And that will definitely help in the situation that we are all in when it comes to Magic. I believe last year, I'd have to double check the numbers, but last year, I think it was close to like over 300, maybe over 350 legendary creatures alone that were printed. And all of those were printed specifically for EDH and Commander purposes, because half of them, more than half of them, don't even work in any other format. There's very few that work in different formats, such as Pioneer, Legacy, Modern, Standard. So they know that the play groups of Commander and everything will buy those packs, those boxes, and that product because it has these new Commanders in it. And that's where the issue is. They know that they will buy them, which will force them to make new decks, which will force them to buy new cards. And so when people have like 30 to 70 to 100 different EDH decks, that is, I don't get it. I had a homie who had like 70 something EDH decks, and he had like one Ugin in every single one. But that was back in the day before EDH was huge. Like it was before Commander and right at the cusp of EDH turning into Commander. So he was one of the OGs of just like having tons of decks. And So that was, back then, but I don't know anybody else who's done that. No. Um, but what's happening right now is they're forcing people in that play format to make new decks because you see like 10 new cards that you want to put into a certain deck. Well, then you have to take cards out. So then you just make another second deck of that, or you just make those cards into a different deck with a different general. And so it's it's the unfortunate truth. It is the unfortunate truth. It is my least favorite format now. I used to love EDH. Oh, you can ask my homies. Like, oh, we used to love playing EDH, and we just don't anymore. It's not. It's not fun anymore. People just want to combo out as quick as possible in the game. Um, you talk about power level before each game, and just bring your deck and play. You shouldn't have to discuss what you're playing or anything. And then if they do that, if you jump into a play group and all they do is turn 2, turn 3 win, then get out of that play group and go find another one. Like it's just I don't know. It's a very difficult discussion. I've had numerous discussions about this with different people, and this is just my rant and bitching and complaining about how terrible EDH is now. Um, but that's why I've been sticking with standard a lot more. Very rarely will I do brawl on arena, but that's the closest that I do to EDH these days. I don't even remember the last time I played EDH. I think it's been like last summer is when I probably played EDH. Yes, it was last summer. I remember exactly now. It was an unfortunate um, reason, but we did. Anyway, yeah, I just EDH players, Commander players, calm down on buying product, please, because the rest of us are feeling it. Like I get it. That's all you guys buy is like a couple of boxes of maybe each set, but that couple of boxes adds up because a lot of us other players who might be competitive for other formats, we don't buy boxes, we just buy singles that we need. And the more boxes go up in price, the less singles are opened. So it affects everybody. You might say like, oh yeah, since there's more different printings, like Elish Norton has, I think like 16 to 20 different printings, and that's including all of the foils, and you would think that the price would be down, but now regular's still like 40-50 bucks, I think. So it's not like singles are cheap because there's multiples of there. It's just because boxes might be too expensive, and after the first 2 weeks, people aren't buying the product. But you know, it's we need to calm down on our spending when it comes to sealed product and everything. You just start buying these singles up. I digress. I play standard. That's my biggest thing. I miss old EDH, and I hope Commander can turn it around because they know they can sell to you guys, and you guys are gonna buy it all. Like this Lord of the Rings, it's gonna be crazy. So, all right, there's my complaining. Hate it or love it. It is what it is. Peace.